Have you ever wondered how a multi-billion-dollar company such as Sony got their start? Well, hopefully in the next 5 minutes or so, I can shed some light on how a company that spans multiple sectors of entertainment, such as movies, music, and gaming, as well as making electronics and gadgets we use in our everyday lives, got their start. Just 1 month after the end of World War II, a young former Japanese Imperial Naval Wartime Research Committee member named Masahiro Ibuka and a handful of Japanese engineers would start a small workshop on the third floor of a war-damaged department store. With little money and no real direction, Ibuka knew his group needed a way to generate income. Ibuka and his group found early success repairing war-damaged radios and modifying radios that had been altered by the military police to only pick up certain frequencies. This would help Ibuka and his group gain notoriety. This notoriety caught the attention of a man named Akira Morita. Morita, like Ibuka, was a former member of the Japanese Imperial Navy. The two were even friends and colleagues during the war, and Morita would eventually reach out to Ibuka before moving to Tokyo to become a major player in Ibuka's workshop. During repair and modification jobs, on top of their normal fee, the group would often receive rice as a gift. This was quite a treat as food was somewhat of a scarcity at the time. This also led to the group's first product, a rice cooker. Unfortunately, it was a failure as it either under or overcooked rice. In 1946, Ibuka and Morita would officially form Tokyo Tsushin Kogyo, or Tatsuko for short. In the early days, the company would find steady repair work with the NHK, or Japanese Public Broadcaster, and a bit later would even receive radio repair contracts from the U.S. Occupational Forces. Tatsuko's first somewhat successful product was the tape recorder. Tatsuko would produce two types of tape recorders, the G-type and the H-type. The G-type was meant for office and education use and found success in the Japanese schools. The H-type was meant for home use and unfortunately did not find as much success as many Japanese households could not afford it due to poor economic states. Ibuka knew that he would need to expand into the Western market if they wanted to be successful. At this time, Bell Laboratories' parent company, Western Electric, was licensing the patent for the transistor. The cost of the license for this patent was quite high, but Ibuka knew they could make something great with it. So Tatsuko eventually acquired the transistor patent license, and now it was time to make something great. Ibuka wanted to make a small pocket-sized transistor radio, but to achieve this, Tatsuko would first need to develop a high-frequency transistor. They were successful in creating this high-frequency transistor, as well as their small form-factor transistor radio, but before they could make it to market, Regency, with the help of Texas Instruments, released the Regency TR-1, the first small form-factor transistor radio. The Regency TR-1 was met with a lukewarm response, as it had a high novelty factor, but the sound was very low and hard to hear. Tatsuko was able to produce and sell their transistor radio, called the TR-51, but only in Japan. Before they could tackle the Western market, they would need a name change. On trips to the US, Ibuka and Morita noticed that Americans had a hard time saying either Tatsuko or Tokyo Tsushin Kogyo. It was decided to change the company's name to Sony. Why Sony? They wanted a name that was short and decided to combine the Latin word sonos, meaning sound or sonic, and the English slang term sunny for young people. These two words were chosen because they represented what they thought their company was, a young company who made up for what they lacked in size with energy, and so Sony was born. The Sony TR-63 was released in the West and was a major hit among Western audiences. This helped secure Sony's spot in the Western marketplace. This, of course, is just the beginning of Sony's history, and the company would face many more ups and downs before becoming what they are today. But those are stories for a different day.